For Paul Rydell and his wife Leanne, being new parents was the ultimate rush.
My greatest memory in life was when my son was born.
And that was a tremendously joyful occasion for both of them.
But Leanne had plans of her own for the marriage.
His wife fled with the baby.
And when her deception turned deadly,
the royal man was killed.
Paul found himself caught in the crosshairs of a sinister plot.
It was such a sensational case.
It was like, oh my God, could she really be this devious?
When it comes to love and marriage, things aren't always as... Paul Rydell's first love was purely physical.
Football was my first passion. I think I was always blessed athletically and put so much into it because that's where I got to bring my feelings out.
But Paul's brawny exterior was hiding an unhappy past.
I never knew my dad, and my dad left when I was young. And my mother, I felt like she resented me or didn't like me. It defined me in a sense. I was constantly looking for approval from her.
In the fall of 1998, Paul was 29 years old and living alone in Amityville, New York. He was determined to put his troubles behind him, with a little help from his best friend and workout partner, Alex Algieri.
He was kind of the opposite of me. He was very mellow, very laid back, and we just really blended well together.
Alex and Paul were not only the closest of friends, but they actually had a similar physical appearance. They both had dark hair. They both drove the same car.
We were with each other every minute of every day for years.
The two friends were also successful entrepreneurs, having just opened one of the country's first 24-hour fitness centers.
At that time, the concept really wasn't there, so we were very successful, and that's when the fitness craze was really starting to take off.
That winter, Paul was riding high on his success. And while he wasn't looking for love, he certainly had his fair share of admirers. One in particular was 26-year-old Leanne Armanini, a single mother who worked at a local bar.
She had a son, maybe about 11, 12, and I think that's one of the things that kind of gravitated me towards her, the nurturing part.
After a few casual dinners, Paul and Leanne began to date. A year later, when Leanne realized she was pregnant, Paul decided it was a good time to take the relationship to the next level. When the couple tied the knot that July, it was a true shotgun wedding.
It was a really nice wedding. I had two best men, and Alex was one of them.
7 months later, the couple's son Nicholas was born.
Nicholas's birth changed Paul's entire view of life. For the first time, I think, Paul truly experienced what real love is like.
I started learning how great it feels to give more than it is to get. He's just the most amazing human being.
But before Nicholas turned 1 year old, tragedy struck, and Paul's entire life changed forever. It all started the evening of January 17th, 2001, while Paul was taking a few hard-earned hours away from the gym.
A friend of mine wanted to go out to dinner, so I asked Al to cover for it. Started having drinks, next thing you know, I never ended up going back to work.
At about 10 that evening, Paul's cell phone began to ring.
So I picked it up. It was Leanne, frantic, telling me about Alex. Alex got shot.
The news hit like a ton of bricks. Alex Algieri, Paul's friend and business partner, had been gunned down in the parking lot of their gym.
I couldn't believe it. And Al didn't argue or fight with anybody. You know, he was a very easygoing guy. It didn't make no sense it would be Al.
Paul was devastated and confused, but his wife Leanne was terrified.
This execution-style murder has all the markings of a mafia hit. A small caliber weapon at night, shots to the head.
While Alex had no enemies to speak of, Paul's reputation as a tough guy was well known. Leanne was certain the bullets were not meant for Alex, but for her husband.
Leanne comes to Paul and says, not only are you in danger, but I'm in danger as your wife,
And more importantly, the baby's in danger.
Was this tragedy a case of mistaken identity?
The very first thing that Paul did was come here and have me draft a will, leaving everything that he owned to Leanne.
In the spring of 2000, 9 months before his best friend and business partner was murdered, Paul Rydell was struggling to adjust to his young marriage with Leanne.
First couple months are okay. You know, but I started going back out with my friends, like a live party with my friends, coming home real late. I was still very young.
On the outside, Paul had much to celebrate. His 24-hour gym was booming, and he and his partner, Alex Algieri, had achieved enormous success.
My life, I mean, as far as I was concerned, was great. I was going out with my friends, business was good, had money.
But behind closed doors, life with Leanne had become somewhat rocky.
It got to the point where she was really tired of me going out and not coming home and doing the things I needed to do.
So one day that June, while Paul was away from home, Leanne took matters into her own hands.
A friend of mine goes to my house to visit me, and he calls me up. He goes, Paul, there's 2 moving trucks in your house. They're emptying out and they're moving out your house.
Stunned, Paul immediately raced home. But it was too late. Leanne had made up her mind to move to Florida and start a new life with her mother. Nothing Paul said would stop her.
I think she probably got fed up and said, you know, I'm leaving. I'm going to Florida. And at that point, I was okay with us not being married or getting a divorce.
But the game changer for Paul was Leanne's determination to take their infant son, Nicholas, with her.
At that very moment, life changed for me. I realized, like, wow, this is real. Like, you know, I'm going to lose my son. I went to see a lawyer. I didn't know what else to do.
Paul's case ultimately found its way to my desk. And during my initial meeting with him, he was overwrought with fear, not about the fact that his wife had left him, but about the fact that the baby was gone.
Steve immediately got to work, and it wasn't long before he realized Leanne was breaking the law.
The general rule is that one spouse who has custody of a child can simply not unilaterally pack up and move to a distant domicile without either the permission of the other spouse or leave of court. The court directed her to return with the child within 20 days or face the loss of custody.
It was a quick victory for Paul. That July, Leanne headed back to New York, Nicholas in tow.
I just wanted to have a relationship with my son, and you can't have a relationship with your child 2,000 miles away.
A divorce proceeding had been scheduled for November 21st. But on that day, things took a surprising turn.
I arrived in court a little bit early. I was setting up at the table, and I heard the door open up, and I turned around, and I saw Paul come walking in, holding the baby, and Leanne behind him pushing a stroller.
Steve was stunned.
I looked at Paul and he said, listen, I want you to withdraw this. We work things out. And I said to him, listen, wait a minute. We can adjourn this. We can postpone this.
But withdrawing this is a significant thing.
But Paul stood firm. He and Leanne wanted the divorce withdrawn.
I knew that I could do better. And I was, you know, seeing what I lost, I was ready to try and do that. Absolutely, I was ready to really try and do that.
Despite his misgivings, Steve withdrew the proceeding, while Paul and Leanne set about making amends.
At that point, I just wanted to work. I wanted to be with my son.
Meanwhile, back at the office, Steve couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. In particular, he was bothered by an affidavit Leanne had filed upon her return to New York.
Before we conducted the hearing, Leanne filed opposition papers designed to convince the judge that she should not be forced to come back to New York. One of the reasons that she detailed for leaving was her contention that she was advised that there was a mafia contract out on Paul's life. Now, Paul was not, and he has never been, involved
with any organized crime faction.
While Leanne's suspicions seemed questionable, Steve would soon learn she was onto something.
The first thing that I thought was, oh my God, she's right.
But he could never have guessed how it would all play out. disaster was just on the horizon.
Everything happened so fast, and the wrong man was killed.
In January 2001, Paul Rydell was doing his best to be a good husband to Leanne.
I was putting more of an effort into making things better. I was just trying to be a better husband, and I felt like it was working and we were getting along better.
But Leanne didn't seem entirely comfortable.
There would be times when Leanne would say, Paul, I'm going to run to the store, just keep an eye on the baby. And one of Paul's friends would drop by and say, listen, your wife is on the payphone at the corner. What's going on?
I confronted her about it. And she says, it's my mother. I really got to ease into this slowly with my mother. She's giving me a hard time.
The explanation made sense. Paul knew Leanne's mother wasn't very fond of him, but he had very little time to dwell on that problem. Just 2 weeks later, he was blindsided by one of the worst tragedies of his life. The evening of January 17th, 2001, Paul was at dinner with a friend when Leanne called him with terrible news. Alex Algieri had been shot execution-style in the parking lot of their gym.
Alex Algieri went outside to his SUV to get some CDs. Unbeknownst to him, there were two men waiting in a car. Shots rang out in very quick succession, and Alex stumbled back into the gym, muttered, "I've been shot," to a witness, and died a few minutes later.
The killers fled the scene, leaving no evidence behind. Paul was devastated.
It didn't make no sense. What type of man sneaks behind somebody like that with a gun?
The following days were tough, but there was one person who stood by Paul's side, his wife Leanne.
She was the one person that I felt that I could talk to, and she was the person I was leaning on. She went to the funeral with me. She never cried. I was always wondering why she didn't cry.
Meanwhile, as the investigation into Alex's murder picked up steam, a frightening theory began to take shape.
Paul came to the conclusion, as did I, and as did the police themselves, that this homicide was a mistake, that the intended victim was clearly Paul.
For Leanne, the thought was terrifying.
Leanne comes back to Paul and says, there really was a mafia contract on your life, and it's still out there.
She begged Paul to let her go back to Florida and take Nicholas with her.
So I told her, listen, let's figure this out. Get your stuff together, go to Florida. Take the baby, go to Florida.
Meanwhile, Paul stayed behind and began to prepare for the worst.
I went into Steve's office and I made a will of leaving everything to Leanne, thinking that she would make sure that money was there for Nicholas when he got older.
Over the next 2 months, Paul shuttled back and forth between New York and Florida, juggling family and business. Before long, Leanne told Paul she was pregnant again.
He was overjoyed. The concept of being the father that he never had is what dominated his entire being.
But Paul's happiness would soon fade. Several weeks later, during one of his trips to Florida, a family friend gave Paul some unsettling news.
He goes, I gotta talk to you. He goes, every time you leave, she goes out with this guy, Rocco. So I went home and I confronted her. I'm like, who's this guy, Rocco? And she literally dropped.
Leanne claimed Rocco was just a friend, but Paul wasn't buying it.
I said, you know what? I said, I'm leaving. I left. Went home.
Shortly after Paul returned to New York, Leanne made an unexpected move. She served Paul with divorce papers.
To commence a divorce action in Florida, all you have to show is that you've lived in Florida for 6 consecutive months. Well, 2 weeks after she met this 6-month residency requirement, Leanne filed an action for divorce against Paul in Florida. And now, Nicholas has lived in Florida for 6 months with our consent, and now we can't get him back.
On December 24th, 2001, when Leanne gave birth to another baby boy, she refused to let Paul see him.
I was calling around hospitals and trying to find out where the baby was, and nobody would tell me anything.
It seemed Paul was on the verge of losing everything once again. To make matters worse, Alex's murder remained unsolved.
I was emotionally spent. I went to kind of a depression, and that was bad. That was really bad.
But things were about to take a surprising turn.
I get a call from Paul, who's absolutely frantic. And he says, I caught the murderer. She's involved.
And when the whole twisted story came out, it shocked everyone.
I'm like, how did I not put this together?
It was like being hit in the face with a 100-pound dumbbell.
If you have a story of marriage gone wrong and would like to appear on this series, go to investigation.discovery.com. By spring 2002, Paul Rydell knew his marriage to Leanne was over. But his son Nicholas weighed heavily on his mind.
I wasn't upset about me and her. At this time, I was just upset about Nicholas. I didn't know how I was going to see Nicholas.
In addition, the murder of Paul's best friend, Alex Algieri, was no closer to being solved.
I think that the most overcoming emotion has always been dealing with that Alex died.
But everything was about to change. In November 2001, more than a year after Alex was shot, police got a surprising and unexpected break when they arrested a suspect for grand larceny.
Part of the NYPD's normal regimen with every arrest is they debrief the suspect as to their knowledge of other crimes.
The suspect claimed to have knowledge of Alex's murder. The information he gave detectives led them to a Florida bodybuilder named Ralph Salerno, also known as Rocco. It was the very same Rocco Leanne had claimed was just a friend. Police immediately took Rocco in for questioning, and it wasn't long before he spilled the whole twisted truth.
Salerno made a very incriminating statement to the police. He basically made a statement where he confessed to the crime and implicated Leanne in the conspiracy and described driving from Florida to New York with an accomplice with the sole purpose of shooting Paul Rydell to death.
Investigators discovered that Rocco and Leanne had been having an affair in Florida. But that was just the beginning. It seemed Leanne wanted to use Rocco for much more than just dating.
I think very early on, once she was directed by the judge to come back to New York so that Paul could exercise his visitation rights with Nicholas, she realized the only way I'm going to be able to leave New York is either with Paul's consent, which there's no way he's going to give to me, or if Paul is killed.
And with Rocco's help, that's allegedly what Leanne set out to do. She gave Rocco a photo of Paul, but that fateful night, Rocco and his crony mistook Alex for Paul and shot him dead.
Leanne reportedly called Salerno a bleeping idiot and told him he killed the wrong guy.
To top it all off, Leanne's newborn son, the baby Paul thought was his, was actually Rocco's.
I found out by the news being on my front lawn. They were like, what do you think about your ex-wife being pregnant by the guy who just got arrested for killing your best friend? I was like, what? That's how I found out. I had no idea. The guy thought it was my kid.
It was like being hit in the face with a 100-pound dumbbell. I mean, it was like, oh my God, could she really be this devious?
In March 2003, Leanne Rydell was arrested at her home in Florida.
It was bittersweet. My first feeling has always been the effect that it had on Nicholas.
On April 24, 2004, Leanne was found guilty of first-degree murder for orchestrating the killing. She was sentenced to 25 years to life. Today, Paul is the father he always set out to be. He has full custody of Nicholas. He also has a new daughter and a wife he loves. He tries not to dwell on the past.
You can go forward or you can go backwards, and backwards is nowhere where I want to be. Backwards is a dark place. I want to move forward. I want to move forward. I want to think about all the wonderful things that I got with my wife, all the wonderful things I got with my children. I don't go backwards.
But one part of Paul's past he'll never forget, his best friend Alex.
I miss him dearly. He'll always be my best friend. But God, how our friendship would have been greater now, because I would have gave him back as much as he gave me.
Corey Wynn always valued duty, honor, and family.
I didn't want to have a short relationship with somebody. I wanted an actual relationship.
So when he fell for vibrant Bobby Ann Finley, he was ready to love her forever.
She was somebody new and interesting, and I've never met anybody like this person before.
But Bobby had more in her sights than a faithful protector, and Corey was about to become her #1 target.
We were hearing about more victims coming forward, new victims.
No, I never dreamed that I would uncover what I uncovered over the last 7 years.
I think that we made really prime targets as far as for somebody to con.
When it comes to love and marriage, things aren't always as they seem.
Small-town boy Corey Wynn had always longed for a big adventure.
I really hadn't even left Texas very much when I was a kid or even a teenager.
I think we went to Oklahoma once, but it's just the next state over.
So after his high school graduation, Corey joined the Marines and bought a one-way ticket out of town. By 2004, the 21-year-old was posted at 29 Palms, California, a small military base in the middle of the Mojave Desert. He was working in the armory and quickly moving up the ranks. But while Corey's career was on the move, his love life had stalled.
You're still moving around again in the military every couple of years, so you get lonely, and you know the family idea starts to look more and more appetizing.
So that summer, when he caught the eye of 28-year-old Bobby Ann Finley at a late-night diner, he knew it was time to take a chance.
She actually sees me sitting by myself, just watching everybody.
And then she said, "You can come sit with us." So I started talking to everybody that was at the table and started talking to Bobby quite a bit more.
Before the night was over, Corey had plans to meet Bobby the next day at a nearby airport where she was handing out flyers for a local business.
We went out to the airport that day, and we were just hanging out. She seemed like a lot of fun. She had a really outgoing personality. She'd tell these stories, you know, that just, you know, is like, wow, it's like, that's some, you know, those are wild, interesting stories, you know.
It seemed the attraction was mutual. Within a week, the two were inseparable, spending all their free time together. And before long, Bobby told Corey a shocking secret.
She confesses to me that she's pregnant. She says she's pregnant, you know, from a rape. And
I started to feel really bad, you know, for her situation.
But to ease Corey's mind, Bobby told him that she had a plan.
she had also had told me that her grandfather was a big name in a clothing organization, and there was a certain amount of money that was going to be coming into her possession, at least well over $100,000.
Corey knew Bobby needed the money, but there was a catch in her grandfather's will.
She couldn't get it unless she had gotten married before her 29th birthday.
And Bobby's 29th birthday was only 1 week away.
Bobby actually proposed to me. She said that, you know, she would be able to support herself, be able to support the baby with this money. And that whole family idea is really what motivated me towards marrying her so quickly.
A few days later, on August 18th, 2004, Corey and Bobby were married in Joshua Tree, California by a retired military chaplain.
I thought it was great. It was very informal because she said she was a country girl too herself, so she wasn't looking for the big wedding dress or anything like that. So we got married in blue jeans.
I get a call and it was a done deal. And I think that the fact that he went through so quickly just really surprised me. He's not impulsive like that normally.
But the battlefields of love are scattered with unlucky soldiers, and Corey Wynn would be no exception. Late on February 13th, 2005, nearly 6 months into his marriage, Corey lay awake on his friend's couch. Life with Bobby hadn't been easy, but this weekend had been like no other. Around 3 a.m., Corey's phone rang, but it wasn't Bobby on the line. It was the base police.
I get a call from the MPs, and they tell me that they want to come talk to me. So I told them, I said, okay. So I went outside, and I waved them down as I came around the corner.
But the police weren't looking to just talk. Before he knew it, Corey was handcuffed and on his way to jail, and he had no idea why.
There was nothing I could do. I was confused, and I was going to jail.
In September of 2004, 5 months before Corey Wynn's world would be turned upside down, the newly married soldier was busy learning how to be a husband with a new baby on the way.
We got a joint checking account. I'd actually put her on the name from my account, That was one of those things I thought you were supposed to do as a married couple. She didn't have a job, so my income was her income.
The couple rented a house in Joshua Tree, California. And before long, the new Mrs. Wynn found a way to occupy her time.
Bobby was getting furniture that was a little nicer than I expected, or spending quite a bit on groceries.
And he called me and he said that Bobby was buying this for the baby and this for the baby. And I said, well, that's part of nesting. Women are going to do that. You just got to keep it in control. And I don't think even at that point Corey had any idea how much money she was spending.
But only 2 months later, in October of 2004, Corey had concerns of a different kind. Bobby told him that the doctor had diagnosed her with toxemia, a serious condition for expectant mothers.
The doctor said this is one of the things she should avoid is stress. Maybe that it would be best if she could find a way to live away from the base, away from the actual military lifestyle for a little bit. That's when we actually talked to my dad and my stepmom and asked them if Bobby could come stay with them for a little while.
With Bobby at her in-laws' house in Texas, Corey moved back into the barracks to save money. But worries about the baby didn't seem to slow down Bobby's spending habit. Before long, bounced checks began to arrive.
When some of the checks started getting back to my command,
actually takes me in to question me about it.
My CO and my staff sergeant at the time told me you're not going to be allowed to work in the armory anymore with these debts that are looming. And so they removed me from the armory.
Corey was devastated. His once solid career was on shaky ground, but he had made a promise that he intended to keep.
I made a commitment to her and to having a family, and I know I'm so far involved in this relationship that I'm going to have to stick through it at any cost.
When Corey asked Bobby about using the inheritance to pay off her debts, she told him there was a problem with the will and the money would be delayed. But in early December, Corey's credit issues suddenly took a back seat when he received a surprising call.
The doctor in Texas was actually going to induce her labor. They wanted to get me emergency leave from the military, so I flew back to Texas, and she has the baby through C-section.
We all went to the hospital, and the baby was premature, and we didn't know if the baby was going to make it. And so we all sat there and waited and waited.
They said he was going to have to be there for about another month. He had breathing tubes and jaundice. He was so small, you'd sit him on your chest, and even though his arms were only about as wide as my chest could be, it felt like he was, hugging you anyway.
The proud parents named him Corey Jr. 7 days later, it was time for Corey to fly back to California, but he didn't want to leave while the baby was still in the hospital.
Priority-wise, it was always God, family, Marine Corps. They wouldn't extend my emergency leave just because he was in the hospital, and so I decided I'm going to stay anyway.
We tried to talk to him. You can't go AWOL. You don't understand what AWOL is. But he wasn't going to leave that baby, and I was worried about what they would do to him.
Despite his mother's warning, Corey told the Marines that he wasn't coming back. His career was now on the line. And before long, his marriage would be too.
There's a warning given to most servicemen as they join that there are women like this out there.
I don't think there was a single thing that she ever told me that actually meant anything to her.
In late December of 2004, what should have been the happiest time in Corey Wynn's life was just the opposite. Corey Jr., a preemie born almost a month early, had made a miraculous recovery. But Corey had gone AWOL with the Marine Corps, and it was time to return and face his superiors.
After he got out of the hospital, I went and turned myself in the military. and there were several charges pressed against me, so it wasn't a very warm welcome.
The Marines offered to drop the charges if Corey took a cut in rank and pay. But convinced he had done the right thing, Corey opted for a court-martial instead. As the Marines prepared for the trial, Corey got ready to bring his family back to California.
I got base housing, and Bobby moved back within a week or two. But I told Bobby that this time around, when we're gonna set up the house,
We're gonna do it the cheapest way possible.
Corey hoped it was a fresh start for the new family, but the stability at home didn't last long.
Bobby seemed to lay around a lot during the day. The house wouldn't stay clean. When I'd get home, I'd take care of the baby, and I'd clean the house.
On the night of February 11th, the situation reached a breaking point.
I found out that there's more bounce checks that Bobby's written, and I wasn't going to let her just talk me down this time. We need to fix this. So we get into another argument. She tells me that she wants me out of the house, and she calls my staff sergeant, and he tells me just go stay at a friend's house for the weekend. We'll figure out some kind of arrangement come Monday.
So Corey got a ride to a friend's house. But later that night, around 2 a.m., he received an urgent call.
Some of my friends see my car was out at a bar, and they were asking me,
Why is your car the only one in the parking lot? And I said, I don't know. And my immediate concern was, where's Corey?
so I get a ride out to go pick the car up, and I come back to the house.
Corey's fears were confirmed when he pulled up and saw a strange white van in his driveway.
I go up to the door, and both locks are locked, the deadbolt and the handle. So by the time I got both locks undone to walk into the house, Bobby's jumping up off the couch with another guy. I didn't make it past the doorway because she's running towards me, and I just said, you know, the heck with it, and I left.
Corey was reeling, so he went back to his friend's house to cool off. But a day later, around 5 a.m., his phone rang again, and this time it was the base police.
I get a call from the MPs, and they tell me that they want to come talk to me. So I went outside, and I waved them down as I came around the corner.
But their response wasn't exactly what Corey expected.
They tell me,
Get on your face. So I got down on the ground. The MP
come put a knee in the back of my neck and threw handcuffs on me. They took me to the MP station, and I said, I don't know what has really gone on.
At the station, officers threw Corey into a cell and finally explained why he had been arrested.
Bobby had accused me of hitting her. She had told the police, apparently, that I had hit her, but I had never, ever laid my hands on a woman. It just wouldn't happen. I was released to my staff sergeant that day, but I had to stay with him until the next morning, until my command could sort out the charges. So I called my mother, and I told her what had happened.
And that's when I started going, that's extremely strange. My father was a police officer, my ex-husband was a police officer, so yeah, I made some phone calls. I signed on to a crime search online, and I found out that there was more than one name attached to her.
She had came across several warrants with different last names, different social security numbers. It was all real suspicious. So I took it to the MP station that next Tuesday.
Base police ran a background check and soon discovered that Bobby was wanted for check fraud. They also realized that her domestic violence claim against Corey was fake too.
She had apparently slapped herself because the thumbprint turned out on the wrong side.
Bobby's lies had backfired. Police immediately arrested her for the check fraud charges. But Corey's biggest concern was for the baby. Since he wasn't legally the father, little Corey Jr. was placed in foster care.
I said, I'll hand him over this on-base foster care program for the time being till you can sort out what you want to do, but I really want to get custody of him.
Everything had happened so quickly. Corey realized he had no idea who Bobby Ann Finley was.
At this point, I know there's no way back.
But halfway across the country, someone else was also digging into Bobby's past. And Corey would soon find out that his ordeal was just the tip of the iceberg.
I was just out there to help my son, but these guys just happened to be part of the puzzle.
Bobby's story is unlike anything I've ever seen.
I mean, nothing that she ever said was true.
If you have a story of marriage gone wrong and would like to appear on this series, go to investigation.discovery.com. In February of 2005, Corey Wynn was on the brink of losing it all. His wife was behind bars, his marriage was over, and he was about to lose custody of the baby he had vowed to love and raise.
They put Corey into this on-base foster care program so that they could decide what the next step was. And I went to court to try to get custody.
By the end of March, Bobby had posted bail and was living around 29 Palms. But with all that had transpired, the court declared that the baby could not return home. Legally, there was nothing more Corey Wynn could do about it.
That's really the hardest part of the whole ordeal was I tried to fight to keep him. I fought to get him into this world, and I fought to keep him with me. So, for a while, I pretty well crawled into a bottle and stayed there.
Over the next 2 years, Corey's court-martial was dropped, and he left the military to move back to Texas. He hadn't spoken to Bobby since her arrest, even though they were still legally married, and he had no idea where she was. But in April of 2008, Corey picked up the phone to receive unbelievable news about his estranged wife.
I called Corey and told him that my son had been scammed by Bobby in 2004, and I understand that he married her soon after while she was carrying the child she's now alleging is my son's. And he said, well, she said that she had been raped. And I said, raped?
I was shocked. I just didn't know what to think.
Katie told Corey that she believed the baby's father was her son Rodney. But due to legal red tape, trying to prove it seemed impossible.
My son went to court, and basically he was told the county had released the child for adoption, and his only option was file suit against the county. He tried contacting numerous attorneys. Nobody would even give him a call back. So it pretty much stopped right there. Then the media got involved, finally.
I got a phone call from Katie about this story, and we felt sort of an urgency to get the story on, and we discovered after Bobby left Rodney, she moved to California, and from what I understand, it wasn't much time after she was in California that she met Corey, and it was literally the same story all over again.
And it seemed that Corey and Rodney Wegg were far from the only victims to fall for Bobby's lies.
I didn't understand why somebody would come to town and do this. And so I started to investigate her. And from what I found out in my investigation at that point was that Corey was around her 12th husband.
I was completely shocked. I was like, I don't know how I missed that. And she started telling me some of the similarities between mine and these previous guys.
And through Katie's research, it appeared that Bobby had a favorite target: military men.
I think she targets the military guys because she knows that they have a steady income and they went out to sea and they would be gone for months at a time. So basically, she could run up their bank accounts and spend money without them knowing about it.
She draws them in. She has that personality that catches their attention, and then it just switches. And they're left in ruins trying to figure out what happened and how did they miss all this was going on.
I think Bobby knew that military men were easy targets. We were lonely. A lot of us were young. We were kind of naive because most of us hadn't been away from home.
And according to court records, some of those situations led to marriage and eventually children.
Talking to these guys, she was all over them. She wanted to marry them within days or weeks after they met her. And, lots of times it was because she was pregnant.
Bobby has multiple children. Just how many children Bobby has, we're not certain, but we were able to find birth records, and I believe there's at least 8 children that range in ages from like 15, 16 years old to 5 or 6.
But it wouldn't be long before justice caught up with Bobby once again. In July of 2010, she finally resurfaced.
Her luck ran out in Louisiana, and she got caught trying to leave the bar without paying her tab. She was arrested and held because it was a misdemeanor charge.
The next day, the restaurant started getting phone calls from media all over the country about her. They realized who she was. Alabama got a wind of it, and Alabama actually went and extradited her back to face charges because they have found that they did have warrants on her for multiple charges.
On July 18, 2010, Bobby Ann Finley was charged in a Montgomery, Alabama courtroom with a felony theft of the first degree. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
When I found out she was actually arrested in jail, I knew that that's where she belongs.
For Corey Wynn, moving on hasn't been easy, but his outlook is optimistic.
Things may not have ended the way that I had hoped, but I never at any point, though, ever have any regrets about anything. You know, my intentions were always good.
Today, as a therapy technician at the Texas State Mental Hospital, Corey spends a lot of time focusing on his career. But he hasn't lost hope of one day having another family.
When FBI agent Margot Bennett married a fellow FBI hotshot, the two seemed destined for a life of intrigue.
I had no doubt that we were going to have a great future. Certainly sparks were flying.
But before it was over, bullets would be flying too.
He had devised this crazy, crazy scheme.
This is not supposed to happen. We have 2 qualified FBI agents here, and they're going to war.
And after she emerged from a secret affair, Margot would discover that the most dangerous criminal she ever faced lived right under her very own roof.
I knew that he was going to come back. I knew I was going to die.
When it comes to love and marriage, things aren't always as they seem.
Growing up in Athens, Georgia, Margot Bennett knew her career goal was to serve and keep the peace.
I became a police officer, and a friend of mine said, you know, you should try for the FBI. That's where I really found my niche. And it gave me the satisfaction of knowing I was doing something good.
In the winter of 1982, while 29-year-old Margot was finishing up her FBI field training in Atlanta, she met another new recruit, Gene Bennett.
My colleague said, hey, Margot, I want to introduce you to Gene Bennett. Stay away from him. He'll try to get in your pants.
He had this swagger, very confident. He was already doing undercover work, which was almost unheard of. So he was a boy wonder.
In a single night working undercover, Gene helped bring down dozens of criminals and recovered more than $8 million in smuggled goods. The FBI was impressed. And so was Margot.
It is not something that just anyone can do. He had really taken to the work, and he was very successful.
So Gene asked her out, and she initially tried to say no, and he was just very persistent.
Almost instantly, the sparks started flying. But soon Margot was transferred to Kansas City. After 2 years of long-distance dating, she knew there was only one way the agency would bring them back together.
Gene and I broached the topic of marriage. I pretty much said to Gene, okay, now's the time. We're either going to do this or we're not. And so I guess you could say that I proposed to him.
In the winter of 1984, Margot and Gene tied the knot in a huge church wedding in Atlanta.
I had no doubt that Gene was the person I was meant to marry, that we were going to have a great future.
She was just really thrilled to be with Gene, and Gene was thrilled to be with her, and it looked like they were going to live happily ever after.
For the next 2 years, life flew by for the FBI's golden couple. But one day in September of 1986, while Margot was 8 months pregnant, Gene approached her with an idea for a scam.
He said he was just talking to his informant, and that his informant had this great idea, and it involved using the relocation service to make a profit on a house.
The FBI helps agents relocate by paying them the equity in their house and then selling the house for them.
The idea was that we would assume ownership of a home that the informant had recently purchased, as if we had lived there, and used that house to sell in the relocation service.
Gene told Margot they would split the profits with the informant.
My response to it was that his informant was nuts, that it was crazy, that there's no way we would do that.
Gene let the idea go. A month later, Margot gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, and life seemed back on track.
Gene was a great dad. He was the first one to change her diapers. He doted on her.
But little did Margot know that this proud father would become her mortal enemy. 10 years down the road, Margot and Jean would face off in a scene straight out of a best-selling crime novel. It all started on June 23, 1996, with a late-night phone call.
My pastor came on the phone and he said that he needed my help, that there were members of the congregation, a married couple, that were having a domestic dispute.
Around 11:30, Margot rushed to the church.
I pulled in, everything was dark, and got out and walked up to the front door. All of a sudden, the sanctuary door flew open, and this figure came out wearing a ski mask. He had a gun.
Margot had walked into a trap set by her very own husband.
And I knew right away it was Jean. I knew I was going to die.
In October of 1986, 10 years before FBI agent Margot Bennett found herself caught in her husband's trap, she and Jean were preparing to move to Washington, D.C. with their baby daughter.
My job was to do background investigations on court appointees. Jean's job was to do background investigation on White House appointees. It was a prestigious position.
But just before the move, Jean brought up the home relocation scam again. This time, he would not back down.
I didn't want to do it, and Jean's response was, don't let the door hit you on your way out.
To save her marriage, Margot went through with the scam, but it wasn't the payday Jean expected.
Jean had been hoping to make $100,000 on this house, but he ended up with only $17,000.
When the couple left for D.C. in January of 1987, Margot hoped it would end there.
I felt that once we moved, Jean would get on a different path than the one he was on.
That spring, Margot was offered her dream job, a teaching position at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. She was thrilled, but once again, her husband became involved in shady deals on the side.
One of the rings that Jean had given me was a gold coin that had diamonds around the face of it, and it was not comfortable while I was typing, so I took it off and I put it in my purse in a little pouch.
Oddly, when Margot looked for her ring a couple days later, it was gone.
When I went to tell Jean that I had lost the ring, I really thought he was going to be upset about it. But instead, he told me that our insurance would cover it.
Without blinking, Jean filed a claim and received a check for almost $12,000. The following Christmas, he surprised Margot with an identical ring, familiar scratch marks and all.
I was worried that this was the same ring that we had gotten an insurance payment on. I didn't know it for a fact, but my heart sunk.
By the time their second daughter was born in January of 1989, the distance between the couple had grown.
I was hoping that with this other child, our family would become more complete, and that it would be a way of pulling us back into where we were.
But it wasn't meant to be.
He enjoyed the undercover work. He enjoyed pretending to be a criminal. He enjoyed that so much that it was starting to seep into his life.
By the summer of 1990, after 6 years of marriage, Margot had had enough.
But she wasn't ready to break her family apart.
I was telling myself that when the girls graduate from high school, I'll do something about this. I'll wait 10 years, I'll wait, and I'll just be unhappy for 10 years.
Margot stayed in the marriage, but in June of 1991, her love life took a surprising turn. Crime novelist Patricia Cornwall had come to Quantico to research her new book.
When I was getting to know Patricia, I called her Patsy. We would get together for lunch. We would spend some time together, and she came to my house for dinner on a couple of occasions.
Soon, Margot sensed an attraction between them, and it wasn't long before their friendship became something more.
I began to sense a different kind of closeness from her. It was something that was missing in my life. You know, it's almost like I was a dry sponge, and she was throwing water on it.
By April of 1992, Margot and Patsy were getting closer and closer. But with her unfinished business at home, Margot couldn't go on with the affair.
We agreed we should stop this and just be friends, and that's what we did.
But the affair changed Margot's outlook on her marriage, and 2 months later, she told her husband she wanted a divorce and temporary custody of the girls.
Gene was stunned. I don't believe he thought I was heading in that direction. He told me he was okay with me moving into an apartment, but the kids weren't coming with me.
And at that point, she realized it's going to be all-out war.
So Margot went to the FBI and told them all about Gene's house fraud scam. In March of 1993, Gene and 2 of his accomplices were arrested and charged with 2 counts of fraud.
I felt like a heaviness about me because I was going to be very involved in the case. I was going to be testifying against my children's father.
By June, Margot was prepared to take the stand. But 5 days before the trial, Gene had another plan in store for Margot.
He absolutely flipped.
She was isolated, hands and feet taped.
And I realized that I might not live through this.
If you have a story of marriage gone wrong and would like to appear on this series, go to investigation.discovery.com. On June 19, 1993, 5 days before his trial for fraud, Margot Bennett's estranged husband Gene had the children for the weekend. He asked Margot to pick them up at 7 in the morning.
I pulled down in the driveway and got out of the car. The garage door came up, and he was carrying their book bags. When he got close to me, he dropped the book bags.
That's when Margot realized she'd walked into a trap.
I saw that he had a taser in his hand. Through my head was going, get out, get out, get out, get out right now. And I took off running. He caught me, and he pulled me back into the garage. He was wrestling to hold me down, and I was fighting for my life.
Margot was quickly overcome.
Gene was using the taser on me, on my head. I gave up. I couldn't fight. I couldn't fight it any longer.
He gagged her and blindfolded her and stuck her into the trunk of her own car.
I was trying to figure out how am I going to get out of this. I was praying to just find a way out.
After driving for nearly an hour, Gene opened the trunk and delivered a bombshell.
He said, here's the deal. They've got the girls.
Gene told Margot that their kids were being held hostage by his accomplices until she agreed to change her testimony.
He made her think that they were in this together, that they had to fight the kidnappers.
He said that if I could convince them that I could get on the stand and lie and be credible about it, that they were willing to let me do that. I told him I could do it.
Gene held Margot captive until it was time for her to testify 5 days later. On June 24th, Margot stunned prosecutors when she took the stand and reversed her testimony. When the judge called a recess, Margot phoned her good friend John Hess.
There was a sense of almost panic in her voice, in which she just blurted out that she had been in the clutches of Gene. She was still concerned that maybe he had been telling her the truth about her children having been kidnapped. And I said, for heaven's sake, Margot, you know that's not true. He's lying. You have got to tell the truth.
Margot told her attorney what had happened, and soon learned that her kids had been staying with Jean's babysitter the whole time.
I knew that I had been had. I had been totally broken down by someone that I once trusted. It was like, what else can there be?
A new trial was set, but this time Jean made a plea deal. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and resigned from the FBI.
Jean was charged with and convicted of the fraud against the government. He also acknowledged improper contact with a witness, but he was not, the idea of kidnapping was not brought up.
My response was, it sounds like my life really wasn't worth a whole lot to know he was getting a year. I ended up resigning and leaving. I used the time that Jean was gone to heal emotionally as much as I could.
In March of 1995, Jean was released, but Margot couldn't break free from him. They still shared joint custody of their girls, and Margot feared he wasn't finished with her yet.
After he got out, I got a job at police department. I never went anywhere without a can of pepper spray and my gun. Mentally, I was just keeping myself on alert. I knew that he was going to come back. I just knew it.
When their custody battle for the kids got underway, Jean snapped once again. On the night of June 23, 1996, Margot was summoned to her church by the pastor. She entered the church expecting a domestic dispute, but instead found herself with a gun to her head.
I knew right away it was Jean.
This time, she was ready for him. She had her pepper spray, she had her gun, and this time, she was on her game.
And so I dove into the pastor's office. I went around the corner of his desk. Jean kept trying to come in the room.
Margot reached into her purse for her gun, but as she looked up, she saw that Jean had raised the stakes.
Margot saw her minister in the next room with a bag over his head, handcuffed to his chair, and a bag of explosives around his waist. And Jean said, "Do you want to die? Do you want us all to die?"
I realized that he was not going to quit. He was not going to go away. And I told myself, I'm going to have to shoot. I'm going to have to shoot him to get us out of this. And the next time Jean popped his head around the corner, I fired.
On the night of June 23, 1996, Margot Bennett fired a bullet straight at her estranged husband, Jean.
I missed him. I missed him by just a fraction, but it was enough to let him know that I was willing to take that shot. When he backed off, I was yelling at Jean to leave, just go. Things got really quiet.
Margot called 911 and police arrived within minutes. But Jean was gone.
When we went outside the church, they cut the fanny pack off of the pastor's waist, and ultimately we learned that it was Play-Doh.
And it didn't take long for officers to track Jean down.
He went home back to his house and independently called 911 to report that Margot was trying to kill him.
His home surrounded, Jean refused to come out, and he turned up the drama on his 911 call.
As part of this crazy, elaborate scheme, he had come up with this idea that he had been an undercover for so long that his brain had split. His psyche had developed this new person named Evil Ed, who had come up with this crazy plan to kill Margot.
After a 4-hour standoff, Jean finally surrendered. But even in custody, Jean wasn't done trying to destroy Margot. This time in the media, exposing the Patricia Cornwall affair.
He hated me because it was my fault. In his mind, it was my fault he went to prison. It was my fault he lost his career with the FBI. I was going to pay for that.
In January 1997, Gene went to trial, but his temporary insanity defense didn't hold up.
He was not insane. Insanity, from a legal standpoint, means you don't know right from wrong, or you're incapable of controlling your actions. And the jury didn't buy that.
Gene Bennett was found guilty of 9 charges, including abduction and attempted murder. Although the jury recommended 61 years behind bars, the judge sentenced him to only 23.
The judge felt because of Gene's military service and because of his stellar career in the FBI that there was still some positive about him and that he deserved the opportunity to have another chance.
In the summer of 1997, Margot and Gene's divorce became final. Margot got full custody of the kids.
I was very relieved. The kids and I could pull our lives back together. We could make a future for ourselves, and we didn't have to worry about that anymore.
Today, 15 years later, Margot lives near her daughters in California and is enjoying life as a grandmother.
The events of my life certainly have shaped who I am today. They have made me realize that there's a core in me that won't crumble, that I am stronger than I think.
Margot hasn't spoken to Gene since his arrest, but knows the day will come when she will have to deal with him once more.
I am not going to waste precious time worrying about that. It means that I've given up, and I'm not going to give up. I'm not giving up.
Diane Beasley was on the fast track to a stable life with John Smith.
John was just wanting to do anything he could for Diane. It just seemed like a really good fit.
But soon after saying I do, the new Mrs. Smith learned her gentle husband was hiding a gruesome past.
That's from a movie. It's a gory movie.
And Till Death Do Us Part took on new meaning.
If my daughter hadn't have been there, I'd been dead.
It's very rare that you come across somebody who everybody agrees is a pure monster.
When it comes to love and marriage, things aren't always as they seem. Relationships are never easy. But for Diane Beasley, romance seemed to be one hard knock after another.
I was brought up to think that you get married, you have kids, and you live happily ever after. And I went through a couple marriages trying to live happily ever after, and that never happened.
After 3 divorces, Diane wasn't expecting a fairy tale. So in the summer of 1998, when a coworker introduced her to the new guy in town, she kept an open mind, even though John Smith wasn't quite her cup of tea.
No, his looks weren't the deal for me, at all.
John had just moved from Ohio to California. The few people who knew him saw a warm, yet solitary guy.
I felt sorry for him because he seemed so lonely and all he did was work 6, 7 days a week. He came across with a warm, good heart. That's what I liked about him.
John was dedicated to his job at a high-end car manufacturer. Diane loved fast cars and big engines. So when John asked her out to dinner, she agreed to go.
They had a great dinner, and next thing I knew, things were moving forward pretty fast.
Before long, Diane and John were sharing intimate details of their pasts.
A week and a half into it, I said, I'm divorced. I've been married a few times. And he says, I've been married twice, too.
John told Diane his first marriage ended in divorce. And sadly, his second ended in tragedy.
He says, my last wife died of cancer. And of course I said, oh, how sad.
He was having a very difficult time in life because of his wife.
But after just 6 weeks with Diane, John seemed ready to put his grief behind him, and he surprised her with a proposal.
And I kind of went, that's kind of soon.
Diane was very candid about saying I wasn't attracted to him. But he could help me. He could settle down my life. He could give me something I don't have right now, so why not?
That September, Diane married John Smith in front of an intimate group of friends and family.
Diane looked absolutely stunning, and a lot of smiles that day. You could tell that they were one happy couple.
I was going to do whatever I needed to do to make it last.
It was a fresh start for the couple. But when Diane moved in with John, she realized that he hadn't entirely left his past behind him.
When I moved in, he was already living there, and there was this huge picture of Fran on the wall. He said, "Do you want me to remove it?" And I said, "No, that's fine." I said, "That's part of your past." And he said, "Thank you." And that was the end of it.
And for a while, that was the end of it.
This is a new beginning for me and John.
But Diane's newlywed bliss would come to a screeching halt only 8 months later. The morning of May 5th, 1999, Diane was busy at her secretarial job when she had some surprise visitors.
Half an hour after I sat down, these guys came in suits, which is very odd for where I work. Usually everybody's in jeans. And I said, "May I help you?" And they said, "Are you Diane Smith?" I said, "Yes."
The men were from the FBI, and they had a pointed question for Diane.
They asked me what John had told me about Fran, and I said he told me that his wife died of cancer.
And that's when the FBI dropped a bombshell. They told Diane that John's second wife, Fran, had not died of cancer. And his first marriage didn't end in a simple divorce.
I was just absolutely flabbergasted.
What really happened was far, far worse.
I could not believe it. I did not believe it.
How is he able to get away with so many horrible things for so many years?
In September of 1998, 8 months before a devastating visit from the FBI, Diane Beasley was enjoying her new marriage to John Smith.
We were doing a lot of sightseeing because he'd never been out here. I'm a native San Diegan.
They were always on the go. They loved to go to the beach and go for walks on the beach.
My life with John at that time was almost picture perfect.
But for Diane, there was one thing that could make the picture even prettier: a bigger home. Luckily, money was no object for John.
His family had real estate holdings, they had apartments. He'd never lacked for finances.
Before long, the couple found a place they liked and applied for a lease. But soon after submitting the application, Diane got a disturbing phone call from an apartment manager.
The apartment manager said, "You need to come here. I need to show you something." And I said, "What's the problem? Just tell me over the phone." And she said, "No, you need to see this." And I went, uh-oh.
Diane raced to the rental office, and when she arrived, the apartment manager had a copy of John's credit report. The results were jaw-dropping.
She showed me the credit report, which was 10 pages long of stuff that he hadn't paid. He had houses that he hadn't paid taxes on. They were in foreclosure. He had credit cards that he'd never paid. It was just terrible.
By the time John got home from work that evening, Diane was beside herself.
I said, "We can't even rent a place because of your credit."
But John had an explanation. He claimed the troubled properties really belonged to a relative.
He said, "I had to take them over, and I couldn't afford them."
John promised Diane he would fix everything.
He said that he can buy a house outright with cash. And he said, we'll just do that, you know, while I get this credit of mine straightened out. I thought, okay, all right, we'll just have to stay in this little granny flat here for a little bit longer, and then we can go and buy a house outright.
Over the next couple months, Diane focused on her new marriage. But she wasn't pleased when she noticed that John often seemed more interested in the computer than in her.
He was always at that computer. Why can't he be doing it at work, which he had access to a computer?
Even more worrisome was John's strange reaction when Diane interrupted his work.
Whenever I would go up there looking for him, all of a sudden the computer went off. And I thought, that's kind of odd, you know?
As the weeks went on, Diane couldn't help but notice how often John had to explain things away. Diane wondered if her new husband was hiding something, and she wasn't the only one. Her daughter Summer began to see a different side of John when she visited.
When I was home alone with him, he was very mad, angry. When he was out with my mom, he would talk really nice, be very sweet. And I used to tell my mom that. She kind of played it off, you know, I think you're just paranoid.
But by November of 1998, Diane was also baffled by John's furtive behavior. Too many details just didn't add up.
He didn't have a checking account. He had been out here for over 1.5 years, and he was still resisting getting the California driver's license. And I thought that was very odd.
It seemed like John Smith was trying to fly under the radar.
He was a man who, as ordinary as he was, always seemed to have this strange, dark, secretive side.
And Diane would soon learn there was a terrifying reason why.
He knew that around each corner were FBI agents surveilling him.
Something was fishy about this man. I was afraid he was going to snap big.
By January of 1999, just 4 months into her marriage, Diane Beasley was certain that something was off with her new husband, John Smith.
He was very agitated, and I got to getting kind of concerned.
By now, his behavior had gone from merely strange to chilling.
We were coming back from dinner, and I was in front of him in one of the cars, and he was behind me. And I could see him in my rearview mirror, banging on the steering wheel, talking to himself, screaming and yelling at himself. And I thought, who's this guy? You know, I don't know this guy. He was just having a fit all by himself.
John is a man who walked around with secrets. He walked around with all this darkness that he hid. I think Diane saw a glimmer of light clearly. You can't ignore something like this.
But John's unnerving behavior was just a glimpse of what was to come. The morning of May 5th, 1999, Diane was at work when 2 FBI agents paid her a visit. She was startled when they began to ask her questions about John's ex-wife, Fran, who Diane thought had died of cancer.
And then it all came out about John. They said, we're here for John Smith. We're investigating the murder of 2 of his wives. I was just absolutely flabbergasted.
The agents went on to explain that both of John's former wives had gone missing under suspicious circumstances.
The FBI was struck by the outrageous coincidences. This man was married twice, 2 missing wives. That just can't happen naturally.
By the time I got out of there, I was just dumbfounded. I was just shocked.
The story left Diane shaken, but she was determined not to believe a word of it until she heard John's side.
I couldn't believe this of John. John wasn't like this. They must have the wrong person.
And when John finally called her later that day, Diane was certain it was all a big mistake. Especially when she found out he had also been interrogated by the FBI and let go.
He was talking a mile a minute. He was very upset. He said the reason why he told me Fran died of cancer, he said, because he didn't believe that Fran was missing. He think that she took off. He didn't want to shock me. He said that the first one, he told me the story about how he thinks a friend of hers killed her.
John claimed that he was being framed by the FBI for something he didn't do.
It was all conspiracy, and that's the reason why he left Ohio, because he couldn't get past any of this. It wasn't him.
At first, Diane believed her husband, but that was about to change. 2 weeks later, a special delivery letter addressed to Diane arrived in the mail.
Fran's sister wrote me a letter, and when I got it, it had a phone number on there for me to call her. And a couple days later, I did call her.
By the time Diane hung up the phone, her belief in her husband was shaken to the core.
The sister was telling me, we are convinced that John killed Fran, and she said, you're in danger of your life. Everything that the FBI told you is true.
Diane's focus immediately changed from being a supportive wife to just keeping herself alive.
I did what the FBI told me to do. When you start getting agitated when you're asking questions, quit right then. Don't irritate him.
Meanwhile, for investigators, the clock was ticking. With no bodies and only circumstantial evidence, detectives needed a smoking gun to prove John Smith was a murderer. Less than 2 weeks later, on May 15th, they got it.
The weak link for John Smith was somebody who was the closest to him, and that was his brother Michael.
Michael Smith was John's younger brother. The FBI had questioned him extensively during the investigation, and they were certain Michael was hiding something.
He was tormented, and he had nightmares, and police could kind of sense this trouble beneath the surface with Michael, and they hammered him.
When Michael finally broke, he told detectives a horror story.
Michael told the police and the FBI about a wooden box he saw, a wooden box that his brother John had built and stored for years. And one day, Michael happened to open that box, and inside he saw the skeletal remains of John's former wife.
It was the break investigators had been waiting for. But there was one problem. Michael didn't know what had happened to the box.
It was brutal for Michael. He had nightmares about it. I think he was scared of John. He didn't want to end up in his own box.
For Diane, the news was horrifying. She just wanted to get out of her marriage alive. But leaving John Smith would not be easy. Diane was about to come face to face with the monster her husband truly was.
If Summer hadn't have been there, I'd been dead.
If you have a story of marriage gone wrong and would like to appear on this series, go to investigation.discovery.com.
Summer was peeking out. She goes, here he comes.
He comes storming up, and it's like his face changed.
Mom, she says, he looks like a monster coming up here.
Diane immediately called 911.
We heard him pounding on the windows. You could hear his body being thrown up against the door. And then you could hear the door frame crack.
He busted down the door. I didn't even recognize him. And as soon as he saw Summer, his whole demeanor had changed. Baby, you don't need to do this. I don't want you to divorce me. I can explain everything. I knew right at that time, if Summer hadn't have been there, I'd been dead.
Diane survived the encounter, and John soon left the apartment. Meanwhile, armed with a shocking confession from John's brother Michael, detectives were on the hunt for the body of John's first wife, Janice Hartman.
In a desperate bid to try to find this body, the cops sent around a round of letters. And a policeman in Indiana was opening his mail one day and got this letter. Said, hey, did anybody find a body in a box?
The grim question rang a bell.
One day in 1980, a road crew was working on this lonely pavement in the middle of an Indiana field when they came across a wooden box. They opened it up, and what was looking at them but the skeletal remains of a young woman.
The remains had never been identified, and the girl became known as the lady in the box. She was buried in a pauper's grave.
And this cop said, I think we got your girl.
Investigators had the remains exhumed and tested, and when the results came back from the lab, the lady in the box was finally identified as Janice Hardman, John Smith's first wife. John's grisly secret had literally been unearthed.
I was devastated. I thought, this poor girl cut down by this monster, John.
On October 3, 2000, John Smith was arrested at work. At the trial 9 months later, Diane learned the extent of John's deceptions. All that time he'd spent on the computer wasn't just business, as he claimed. John was having multiple affairs.
So much of what police say John was motivated by was power. It's not money. It wasn't sex. It was power. Power over these women. In the two cases in which his wives disappeared, the wives challenged him and crossed him. They took on his authority.
And that's when John Smith would snap.
John had lots of girlfriends, and so the fear is there are more than 2 missing Mrs. Smiths.
On July 19, 2001, John Smith was found guilty of murder in the case of Janice Hardman. He was sentenced to 15 years to life. Fran Gladden Smith, John's second wife, has never been found. It's been more than a decade since John Smith walked into her life, and Diane has closed the book on that unhappy chapter. But despite everything, Diane held fast to her belief in happily ever after. And 8 years ago, she found it in her new husband, Robert.
We have a new life together. We live here all by ourselves with visits from the kids and the grandchildren. So it couldn't be better. It's perfect.
Today, Diane surrounds herself with good friends and family, and she finally knows that happiness isn't just a fairy tale.
Yes, there is happily ever after, and I'm living proof of it.
Carolyn and Billy Cox were living the American dream. 2 beautiful kids, a multi-million-dollar business, and plenty of wealth to spare.
We were considered like almost the perfect couple, and we weren't too bad looking.
But $15 million can't always buy a perfect marriage. When a husband went over the edge,
you realize I didn't know the guy at all.
There's something very sinister about Billy Cox.
43 years of devotion would end in a nightmare.
That was the first time I really felt fear.
When it comes to love and marriage, things aren't always as they seem. As a Missouri farmer's daughter, Carolyn Cox always knew the value of hard work in life and in love.
I saw love and marriage as a commitment for life. It was a treasure that you protected at all costs.
The day she first spotted 17-year-old Billy Joe Cox working on her father's farm, Carolyn thought she had found that treasure.
I remember him walking up on the porch, and my mother answered the door, and he was so good looking. I think I fell in love with him immediately.
Before long, the two began to date. Raised in a strict religious home, Billy treated Carolyn well, taking her out on Saturday nights.
He was very shy, and when he did come to the school dances, he had never danced. He always had this very sweet smile with his lip curling up to the side, and everyone just really liked him a lot.
Soon, the couple was thinking about a future together.
He just seemed to be honest, gentle, loving, caring, and so what more could one ask?
3 years later, they made good on their promise and tied the knot in a traditional church ceremony. Carolyn was just 19.
We were married on Easter Sunday, and it was a blizzard. And I remember in the receiving line, this lady shook my hand, and she says, "I hope your married life is not as snowy as your wedding day." And I've never forgotten it.
After the wedding, the young couple worked hard to get ahead. Billy joined the Air Force to earn money so they both could go to college. And soon they started a family.
We had our goals that I think were aligned together, so I thought we were a very good match.
2 children later, Carolyn graduated and worked to help support them while Billy finished his PhD in botany. But as Billy's graduation day grew closer, Carolyn began to notice a change in her husband's behavior.
Billy was seldom around. He was coming in late, a lot of nights drinking with friends. I don't know if he was feeling some pressures, but when Billy was under stress, he became very intolerant.
He would belittle her, so the circular argument that she had was ridiculous. Sometimes you could hear things getting thrown and that type of thing.
Billy's temper was troubling, and one night he suddenly became violent.
I don't know what the argument was, but he hit me. He socked me. And I had this black eye. And I was thinking, how can this be?
But Carolyn was determined to stick with her young marriage.
I made a decision that day that you're not giving up your marriage, you're not giving up your hopes and dreams. You just put it away, go on, this won't happen again.
Meanwhile, on the outside, life for the couple was looking up. Billy graduated with his PhD and found a good job at a chemical lab. But as the years went by, he had bigger ambitions.
He decided to take some things that he had developed and start his own business. So I was the breadwinner. I would teach all day and go work the business at nights and weekends.
With Carolyn's help, Billy built an agricultural chemical company from the ground up. And by the time the kids were grown and out of the house, business was booming. By the late 1990s, the Coxes were millionaires. The small-town sweethearts had come a long way.
They made a lovely, lovely couple. They had earned everything on their own, and I admired them for that.
We were considered like almost the perfect couple. We really were. We had succeeded, we had done well.
After nearly 4 decades together, the couple had finally achieved their dream. But Carolyn was about to wake to a terrible reality. On the night of September 12, 2004, Carolyn was packing their bags for a much-needed getaway to France with friends.
I never had been to Europe, so I was very happy.
But she and Billy would never get on that plane. The next morning, around 6 a.m., Carolyn woke to a sharp pain in her head.
The next thing I know is I'm on the rug, being pulled down the hall.
Barely conscious, Carolyn felt herself being moved into the garage. Her nightmare was just beginning. Carolyn was under attack, and the assault would cost her her husband and nearly her life.
He said, "You're worth more dead than alive." And I'm like, what are you? You're not a human being.
In the spring of 1996, 8 years before the attack that would leave Carolyn Cox clinging to life, she and her husband Billy were hard at work growing their successful business.
It all gradually came together. We felt very good about what we had accomplished. We felt like we had reached those things that we had set out to reach.
But as the couple's net worth ballooned, so did their problems at home. Billy's temper had gone from bad to worse.
As he became more successful, I think he felt even more that he was above it all. Everything that he did, every shot he called, it was going to be his way or there was no way.
There was a very, very dark side that he didn't know when it could occur. So there was this fear at all times of when it possibly could come out. So you were careful.
More and more, Billy's anger would turn physical, often with no provocation.
We were sitting in the hot tub one night, and we were talking, and I said something he didn't like, and with the back of the hand, he just suddenly hit me across the face. It was just so out of the blue.
Sometimes Billy's outbursts would leave their mark, but Carolyn took pains to hide the truth, even from her closest friends.
She would come to meetings sometimes in a neck brace, or with her arm in a sling, or a patch over her eye. Carolyn always had an excuse for these injuries, and to be quite honest, the general opinion was that Carolyn was a klutz.
At times, Carolyn thought about ending her marriage, but Billy's violent streaks didn't happen often.
These bad times might not show up for a year. And in between it, he could be very loving and he could be affectionate. When we would go for these spans and not having anything happen, I truly felt they would never happen again. And so when they showed up, I was always in shock.
But problems at home didn't slow down the family business. By 2002, the couple was worth $15 million
and living in a 12,000 square foot mansion in Bull Valley, Illinois.
It was Carolyn's dream house. And they enjoyed entertaining for fundraisers and functions in Bull Valley.
We were living the dream. Being able to stand back and look at that and say, look what you have, how fortunate you are.
But it never seemed to be enough for Billy. He soon became obsessed with money, counting and recounting every penny they had.
He was constantly making records of his net worth. And he had some fixation on insurance. He was always buying insurance policies.
By the spring of 2004, Billy was acting even stranger.
If I touched him, his body was rigid. I would start to hug him, and it was almost like hugging a board. I just remember wondering, what is going on?
But one thing was better. Billy hadn't been violent towards Carolyn in over a year. Until one night, when he said something that gave her pause.
He bought an insurance policy on my life, and he was going over the information, and he said, "You're worth more dead than alive."
Carolyn knew that life insurance policy was worth more than $1 million, but they hardly needed the money, so she tried to laugh it off.
I refused to take it any other way. I turned to him and I said, "Well, I'm so glad that's not true."
Little did Carolyn realize just how deep Billy's anger was.
He looked at me with eyes that was just ice cold.
I thought, this looks like a photograph of a corpse.
In the summer of 2004, Billy and Carolyn Cox were the pillars of their Bull Valley community.
I was very involved active in the community and very happy in what I was doing.
But behind closed doors, the golden couple's marriage remained far from picture perfect.
We had gone to an event at a friend's home, and when it was time for us to leave, one of my friends said, "It is so nice to see a couple who've been together so many years who still love each other." And he turned with the most hatred and the worst anger and said to me, "That may change at any moment."
Billy's anger seemed to be building, and Carolyn had no idea why. So when good friends Beth and Jim Wester proposed a vacation in France, Carolyn was eager for a change of scenery.
Billy's initial reaction to it was that we shouldn't go, and I said, "If we don't take advantage of this, I'm afraid we'll never do it." Then he seemed to be going along with it.
But Billy and Carolyn would never board that plane. On the morning of September 13th, 2004, Carolyn awoke to a crushing pain in her head. Dazed, she had no idea what was happening.
My first sense of something was my husband lifting me off the bed, and I reached for him. And the next thing I know is I'm on the rug being pulled by him down the hall, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "You fell out of bed and hit your head. I'm taking you to the doctor."
Billy dragged Carolyn down to the garage.
He placed me right on the cold concrete floor out there. And I kept saying, "Where's the ambulance? Where's the ambulance?" And he said, "They are on other jobs."
Bleeding heavily, Carolyn slipped in and out of consciousness, praying that Billy would be able to help her. But her prayers were in vain.
As I'm lying there with my eyes shut, all of a sudden something hit me across the left side of my face. I said, I think I'm dying. And he just stood there. He didn't do anything. He didn't say anything.
Instead, Billy picked her up, dumped her into the back of his SUV, started it, and walked away.
I'm in the car, and I'm realizing it's getting really hot. It's getting harder and harder to breathe. And I kept telling myself, you'll die. You can't go to sleep. You have to do something.
With her last ounce of strength, Carolyn managed to crawl to the garage door, only to find that it was locked. Then she knew her husband of 43 years wasn't going to help her. He was trying to kill her.
I did not understand till those doors were locked what he was really doing.
Meanwhile, the Westers had been trying to reach them. They were scheduled to leave for the airport.
I called him at 8:30 in the morning, but nobody answered. And I said, well, that's odd.
But as the morning wore on and still no word from the Coxes, Jim began to worry.
Around 10:30, I realized this is not right. This is not normal. Nobody would answer any of the phones. And then I kept thinking, their house is way off the road. What if something happened?
I get a phone call from Beth Wester, and she says, do you think maybe that we should call the police?
Around 12:30 p.m., local police arrived at the house. He climbed through an open window and made a gruesome discovery.
He literally encountered a bloodbath in the foyer. He entered into the garage. The garage was full of carbon monoxide, and it was very hot in there. He observed Carolyn laying across the front seat of Billy Cox's truck, bleeding heavily from her face, and she said to him, "Help me," and then she lost consciousness.
As paramedics worked to save Carolyn, Billy mysteriously appeared, claiming he'd been outside on the grounds all morning.
He was standing there very calmly and said, "Did she fall?" At that point, the chief was very suspicious of what had occurred.
Carolyn was rushed to the hospital, and police began to question Billy. But soon he complained of chest pains and was taken to the same hospital as his dying wife.
They took me back to the room where my mother was, and I looked at her and I didn't even recognize her. And she said, "Why did he do this to me?" They said that my father had been brought in, and do you want to see him? When I got in there, there's the face of complete bull. Never asked about my mother until the very end.
Doctors could find nothing wrong with Billy, so he did what any man would do when his wife's life was hanging by a thread. He went out to dinner.
The chief was immediately suspicious of Billy because of the crime scene. Someone was cleaning up that foyer. There were rugs that had been rolled up that were full of her blood. There was also no explanation as to why the garage doors were all disabled, vehicles were running, and the door entering into the home was locked.
The evidence appeared to point in one direction. As soon as Billy finished his pork chops, police brought him in and arrested him.
Why would you take it to that level? Could have divorced her. Not only was he trying to kill her, he was trying to make her suffer.
2 days later, Carolyn awoke from surgery to hearing loss, metal plates in her face, and damaged vision. She was in shock that the man she had devoted her entire life to had just tried to kill her.
The coming to and knowing, oh, the heartbreak, it's just the devastation. I couldn't believe it. I lost my husband. I nearly lost my life, and I lost my husband.
But beyond heartbroken, Carolyn was also afraid. Billy had posted bail, and his reign of terror was far from over.
I believe that he wanted Carolyn dead.
I was just terrified all the time.
If you have a story of marriage gone wrong and would like to appear on this series, go to investigation.discovery.com. In September 2004, the exclusive town of Bow Valley, Illinois, was shaken to its core. Billy Cox, one of its most prominent residents, had brutally attacked his wife, Carolyn.
The story was front page, and the people in the area were just in shock.
Even Carolyn's closest friends didn't see it coming.
It kind of blew me away. I mean, you just look at this whole thing and you realize I didn't know the guy at all. I was seeing what he wanted me to see.
4 days after the attack, Carolyn filed for divorce from her hospital bed. The golden couple's marriage was over.
You saw her heart was broken. Well, that was very hard.
When she was finally released, Carolyn insisted on returning home. Billy was out on bail, and despite a restraining order, she was still afraid of him.
He was seen at the end of my drive. He was seen going up and down the street. And I was just terrified all the time.
There were many phone calls I had with her where she was sobbing, and I kept telling her to just have faith that eventually we would get to trial and justice would prevail.
In March 2007, 2.5 years after the attack, Billy finally had his day in court.
Billy's defense was that Carolyn decided to walk into the garage and climb up a ladder, and she fell backwards. A board struck her on the front of her face. I had no doubt that Billy Cox was trying to kill Carolyn on that day. He tortured his wife for more than 6 hours that morning.
On the stand, Billy denied everything.
He has a very sinister side to him. He showed no empathy at all for Carolyn.
The jury sided with Carolyn. On April 11, 2007, Billy Joe Cox was convicted of attempted murder. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. To date, he has never admitted what he did to his wife that day, or why.
I don't believe the initial attack was premeditated. Billy Cox had abused her throughout their 40-year marriage repeatedly. He hit her hard enough this time, though, that no one was going to believe that she fell. So he realized that he had to end her life in order to protect himself.
Even behind bars, Billy's rage continued to burn. In 2009, he was investigated for allegedly trying to put a hit out on Carolyn.
I was informed that he had been approaching another inmate, asking him to kill Carolyn.
I know he has friends within the prison, so there is definitely fear that he can hurt me.
7 painful surgeries later, Carolyn's face has been repaired, and she's finally mending her heart.
A year and a half after this happened to me, I met Dennis, who is my husband. He's a caregiver, a very loving man, and I'm very happy.
It's wonderful to see my mom happily married. She absolutely deserves it. It's about time.
Today, Carolyn devotes her time to speaking on behalf of victims of domestic violence.
There's this myth that happens to less educated people or poor people, but there are many people that are in a domestic violence situation that are just like me.
Now, Carolyn knows that some marriages shouldn't last forever. But the sadness still lingers.
It's tough to cope with the heartbreak. It's always going to be there. It gets better.